Hi, my name's Hannah, and sometimes I can't get wet. This video is all about sexual discomfort, and it is sponsored by Durex Naturals Intimate Gel, which is a lube, and we are going to be talking a lot about lube. So this is all part of their campaign to highlight the problem of sexual discomfort and how it's completely normal and there are simple solutions. Durex wants to be able to empower people to talk about these things and liberate you from having uncomfortable sex. They also did a recent survey about people's experiences with sexual discomfort, so I'm going to be sharing some of the findings of that throughout this video. But first of all, I want to explain what I mean by sexual discomfort and how that is different from pain during sex. So specifically, I'm talking about vaginas, I'm talking about people with vulvas, and when referring to sex, I'm specifically talking about penetration, penetrative intercourse. And sexual discomfort refers to the uncomfortable feeling that someone with a vagina might have during sex if there is a lack of lubrication. So when you're aroused, or sometimes when you're not aroused, your vagina produces a natural lubricant which eases friction during sexy times. It is what people refer to as getting wet. What's other slang for it? Oh, having a wide on. I hate that. I hate that one. I hate it so much. I like to refer to my personal wetness as a lady boner. That might not suit everyone, but that's what I like to call mine. So sexual discomfort due to a lack of vaginal lubrication is totally normal. According to the survey, 3/4 of people with vulvas said that they experience this. So you are not alone. And, my friends, simple solution. Lube is your friend. And like I said, I'm not referring to pain during sex. If you find sex really painful in the vulva, vagina area, but also in your pelvis area, and maybe there's bleeding, do go to your GP or sexual health clinic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why you might experience vaginal dryness and then how you can combat that. What is this? Basically, you don't have to grin and bear it. Grin and bear it and sex. No. But the reality is that that seems to be what a lot of us are doing. And I know that I have been there. So why vagina doth you be dry? So probably the most important thing to know is that the largest sexual organ is your brain. That's right, folks. Your brain is where you get aroused. Your brain is where you get turned on and excited. Yes, there are potentially side effects of that happen down below, but it is all mental, my friend. Here's the catch. For people with vulvas, there is often a disconnect between the two. So you could be super horny and feel super turned on, and yet you're as dry as a Sahara Desert. Or you're not aroused at all, you're like not super into it, and you're gushing. Like, there is just no communication going on between these two parts of the body. I mean, there's some, but what I'm saying is that if you're dry, you might still be aroused. Expectations and pressure. When we first start learning about sex, one of the main messages that you may have received is that sex is going to hurt if you have a vagina. And that creates a huge amount of anxiety around sex. And then on top of that, there is this pressure that penetrative sex is the holy grail. It is the real sex. So it's like you must be having penetrative sex to have a healthy, normal sex life. But guess what? It's gonna hurt. You're welcome. So if you think sex is going to hurt, then you're more likely to tense up and it's more likely to hurt. And then you remember the last time sex hurt. So when it comes to having sex again, you're like, oh, sex hurts. And then guess what? The cycle continues and sex hurts. And here's the thing. They'll tell you that sex hurts, but they don't give you any solutions. I do not remember school telling me about lube. Now I really wish that they had told me about lube. That would have been great. You know, how to put a condom on a banana. Also, here's some lube. Practice putting that on too. That would have been great. Stress and tenseness. So even though sometimes we can be super aroused and super dry and these two things don't necessarily communicate properly, there is still a lot of communication happening and a lot of things all going on. So if you're stressed about something, and if you're feeling really tense and you're not like in the moment and you're not present and you're like worrying about other things, that is going to impact how sex feels. Your menstrual cycle. So during your menstrual cycle, levels of estrogen rise during ovulation and then they come crashing back down again. And actually, your vaginal lubrication is connected to estrogen. So as estrogen rises and falls, so will your lubrication. And so it is totally normal to find yourself not as wet throughout certain parts of your monthly cycle. And on the note of estrogen, that's what happens with menopause. So menopause, estrogen levels are lowering, and that's why a lot of postmenopausal folks experience vaginal dryness. And then some other reasons why you might experience sexual discomfort, but more on the pain side. And as I mentioned, if you do experience any of these things, then do go to your doctors, because the advice that I'm about to give you will not help. So some infections can cause pain during sex, like some STIs or other infections such as UTIs or thrush. Also endometriosis, which is where the lining of the uterus grows in other places, such as the fallopian tubes or the ovaries, and that causes really heavy, painful periods, but also can cause pain during sex. And another thing that might cause pain is vaginismus. Vaginismus is when the muscles of the vagina involuntarily contract. So what that means is that it can actually make it near impossible or completely impossible to get anything in. And trying to push anything inside can be extremely painful. All of these things are treatable though, so go to your GP or your nearest sexual health clinic. But now we're going to talk about how you can help solve just general sexual discomfort and lack of lubrication down there. I really need some water. I need some mouth and brain lubrication. So obviously the first thing I'm going to mention is lube. Lube, 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 lube. I love lube. And as mentioned at the beginning, this video is sponsored by Durex Naturals Intimate Gel, which is this stuff here. It is water-based. You can get different kinds of lube. Water-based is body safe, and it is sex toy safe, and it is condom safe. There is also silicone-based lube, which is also body and condom safe, but don't use silicone lube with silicone toys. Don't do that. And you can also get some oil-based lubes, which I don't recommend. Not good for your bits and not compatible with condoms. So water and silicone based are your friends. Also very happy that this comes in 100 mils, so I can take it on planes for my travels. I don't want to actually use it on the plane, that's not what I'm saying. I realised how that came out. I mean for when I'm travelling by plane and I only have a carry-on, I can still take lube with me. That's what it meant. So I have definitely experienced my fair amount of sexual discomfort in the past. It's much better now, and that is genuinely all down to lube. When I was younger, I used to believe all of these ideas around the fact that if you used lube, then it meant that you were broken and there was like something wrong with you, and only old people used lube, and young people didn't, because, you know, if you're aroused, you'd get wet all the time, so if you can't get wet all the time, then there's something wrong with you. No. But somehow I managed to unpack all of those ideas and start to embrace lube. And I pretty much use lube every time I have sex. And actually 9 out of 10 women say that sex feels better with lube. So Durex released a new ad for this lube with the hashtag #LadiesLet'sLube, and I will link the video to it in the description, and you should definitely go and check it out. It is very funny. You see lots of people just being like a bit like, oh, painful sex, but then they say something and then they like go and grab the lube, and in one of the shots they've got either like the bedsheet or a towel wrapped around them, and they're like running to a different room to like grab it, and then they run back. And to that I say, make sure you have lube by your bedside table. Easy access, my friends, easy access. There are also other kinds of sex that are just as valid and just as pleasurable. You don't have to have penetrative sex to have sex. A lot of people don't like penetrative sex, they're not interested in it, and that is absolutely fine. There are other things that you can be getting on with that are just as fun. And when it comes to things like masturbation, either solo or with someone else, or oral sex, lube is also great for those things too, especially anal sex. Oop. My camera cut just as I started talking about anal. Your butthole does not produce the same amount of natural lubricant as vagina, so just go wild. Go wild. And there is no such thing as too much lube. Other things that you can do to avoid sexual discomfort would be try different position. There are many different sexual positions out there, and some maybe where the person with the vagina has more control. And of course, take your time and go slow. It is not a race to the finish line. It is not a race to penetration. It is just a whole process. And be present. This helps to stop all of that stress and tension going on up here, interfering with your sexual experience. It's definitely easier said than done, but you can do it with practice. And then the big one that I preach all of the time, communication. According to the survey that Durex did, 1 in 10 people with a vagina faked an orgasm in order for sex to end quicker so that they didn't have to experience the discomfort anymore. It's sad, but it's true. But it doesn't have to be true with lube. It could be something that you bring up before sex or after sex, but I would definitely recommend trying to get to a place where you can say things during sex if things aren't going the way that you want them to and you want to change things up a little bit. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being like, hey, pause, and like grabbing whatever bits that you need. I genuinely have a huge collection of lube, and I just really want you to know that this is an instance of one of those sponsorships where these 3 bottles of lube that they have sent me, these will get used up. I'm telling you now. These will get used. Thank you to Durex and their Naturals Intimate Gel for sponsoring this video. Make sure you check out the link to their ad in the description. And I would love to hear in the comments any of your own advice and tips and tricks about sexual discomfort or vaginal dryness, anything that I may not have mentioned that you think would help, and also if you're willing to share if you have any good stories about lube. I love lube. Have I mentioned that? Have I mentioned that I love lube? Please do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe because I make videos every week. Bye!